It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer, and nearly 8 years ago to the month we reviewed our first beer here in the kitchen. We did 3 previous beer reviews on a laptop using the webcam, and we grabbed our mobile phone, the Nokia N95, stuck it on a cushion over there and reviewed this beer at 5.2% ABV back then, 8 years ago. It's changed a little bit. This is a limited edition bottle, so it's still old Speckled Hen. So what's changed? Limited edition bottle, old spooky hen for Halloween, 5% ABV. There's the bottle cap. And back then, I adored this beer. Really adored it. It was one of the beers that got me into the whole ale scene and the whole kind of onto then to the craft beer scene. So without further ado, let's get it out into a glass, see what we get. And I'll tell you my little story later on. So they've lowered the ABV by 0.2%. Why have they done that, do you think? Maybe because it sounds a bit better being 5%. Maybe it don't sound as strong as it was. Maybe people want to have a few more of these. And psychologically in the mind, 5% may be better for them than 5.2%. Won't make an awful lot of difference. So we have a 1 finger white head, golden amber coloured ale, good levels of carbonation, clear as a whistle. Let's get the aroma. And it still takes me back to fond memories. I'll get to all of that later on. A bit of toffee, that with a biscuit, that with a raisin. A touch of spiciness in there. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. First thing I notice is the carbonation. A real, quite aggressive carbonation on the palate. It's very refreshing. It's a very refreshing beer. Had a pizza about half an hour ago, and you know what pizzas are like, especially frozen pizzas. They're really kind of salty. I'm gonna have a drink before the review, and I thought to myself, just drink during the review. So this is my first beer from a salty pizza, and to be perfectly honest with you, it is a very, very refreshing beer. Toffee, biscuit bread, malt, spicy, a bit hoppy on the back end. For the price, £1.50. It's not a bad beer at 5% ABV. Hear that carbonation coming back. If you're looking for something extremely kind of out of this world, hoppy and flavoursome and craft beer, then this is not it. But then there's also the side of people tuning into YouTube to see a review of old Speckled Hen with maybe a different mindset to people who are massively into craft beer. I'm massively into craft beer myself, but I'm trying to take that craft beer head off, put it somewhere else, and review this in the eyes of the man who actually likes this beer and who buys it and is quite interested to watch a review on YouTube. For £1.50, it really isn't a bad beer. If you like a malty beer, this one's for you. Yes, being critical. It's a little bit tinny, it's a little bit like it's got copper pennies in the bottom of the glass, and it's a little coppery flavour. But that's just me being a little bit critical, as I am as a beer reviewer. It's not a bad, what I'm trying to say is it's not a bad beer. So going back to this whole kind of story I wanted to tell you about 8 years ago. Yeah, this is Old Speckled Hen. I was dragging videos over into VidMe. I'm taking my back catalogue of videos and putting them on VidMe, which is a platform where you just drop your link in and it takes the video over by just putting your link in. So it's a great way of having somewhere else apart from YouTube in case something happens with YouTube, because they're upsetting an awful lot of people at the moment, their creators, by demonetizing their videos, and that's another story. But I went back to my back catalogue right at the beginning and realised that this very beer was the first beer I reviewed here in the kitchen. Old Speckled Hen. I looked 8 years younger, a little bit more wrinkly now. But this is the beer that really kicked it all off for me. Reason being is that, and I tell the same story back 8 years ago, is that I travelled down to Salisbury in Wiltshire, met my father-in-law for the first time. We had a few games of pool, had some beer. This was the very beer. Got blind drunk on this, by the way, but had a jolly good time with him. And it was the first kind of real strong ale that I was drinking on cask back in my 20s. So you know, it was a kind of a shift from very light bitters and very light lagers over into kind of strong ales at 5.2%. And I remember all of a sudden playing pool really well, and then all of a sudden, like a blink of an eye, I wasn't playing pool well at all, and it was time to stop. And I was after about 4 or 5 pints of this, because it catches up with you, especially when you're not used to it. So yeah, that was the real kind of start of the love affair. That's where the real ale guy was really born, probably over that pool table, drinking 4 pints of Speckled Hen back all them moons ago. And of course it's nice to grab hold of a bottle, review it in 4K. We're doing it in 4K now, which is different. And the other reason why I'm doing it is to see how my palate has changed from back then. I probably gave this beer a full score back then. I'd probably give it a 10 out of 10. I was just in awe of the beer. I really enjoyed it. A crafted fine ale at 5% ABV. I'm not going to give it a 10 now. My palate's changed. I've drunk a lot of beer, nearly 4,000 different beers since doing this very beer review. And of course, you change and you adapt, and your taste buds go into different directions, and let's rate it with today's head on after 4,000 beers. Still looks good in the glass. I kind of wish it was still 5.2% ABV, the original recipe. It's the same beer, it's just been relabeled as Old Spooky Hen. Nothing different about the beer, it's just they put a plastic sleeve over the whole bottle. I like it enough to give it a 7. It's a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Old Speckled Hen in 4K. 8 years older. Thanks for watching. Put your comments in the comments box. Please subscribe to our daily beer reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom! And cheers.